rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. Yesterday was, of course, Independence Day. I hope everybody had a good and safe Independence Day. Unfortunately, a disaster struck in Central Texas. I'll get to that into the Texas Hill Country, and I'll get into that here in a moment. And it was disaster for sure. Anyway, I'll get to more of that in a moment. But first, let's go ahead and get the show kicked off properly. Let's go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight is G. G is up, but I don't think G is around because I think I saw Ms. T of Texas say that they were doing something over the weekend and were going to be out. I could be wrong, but anyway, yeah. So let's go ahead and follow along with G as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would have mind, please stand, remove your hats. You're wearing one like me, and place your hand over your heart and follow along with G as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, G, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style. And, or reciting the pledge, however you want to do it. And then basically take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email address. Send it to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. Yeah, let me go ahead and do the ad, the headliner ad first. But before I do, tonight I'm drinking out of the Knob Creek. Yes, I know I drank it Wednesday. I try to shift things up, but I'm doing the Knob Creek again because, as you can see, I've got very little of it and I need some shelf space. So, and I'm drinking it out of the fantastic It Takes Stones to Drink with Whiskey glass that was given to me by my wonderful, fantastic Whiskey Warrior P1s that are out there. There we go. It takes stones to drink with whiskey. And of course, there's the stones right there in the bottom of the glass. So, requisite first sip. Actually, that was more than a sip, but that's okay. I always get blamed on the show that I'm not drinking fast enough or drinking large enough. But you guys got to understand, I got to keep my wits somewhat. Anyway, all right, so let's go ahead and get to the headline sponsor. And I just realized I don't have my script up. So bear with me for just a moment while I get that script up so that I can follow along and make sure that I am not missing things. Yeah, I kind of got a little discombobulated this afternoon, but I think, that's happening more and more as I get older. Anyway. All right, let's go ahead and get the headline sponsor going. Tonight, of course, is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking the free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up, and while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content, to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, look at this thing. Look at this thing. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Right here, 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. Check out that binding, no cheap glue. Here, folks, it is stitched all the way through, the leather and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if you want to, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free for you. It has sexy rounded corners, according to all my Rumbler Whiskey Warrior P1s. And my youngest Whiskey Warrior, oh, wait, sorry, I forgot this. It is Buddy tested, Buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest Whiskey Warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you study for and pass your civics badge in Scouts. Will probably also help you with your civics exam. It is Democrat repellent for sure, so you can hold this up and they'll run like they're being burned. Anyway, if you want to purchase this, just go to constitution.americanperspective.online. And also, don't forget to check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings. In fact, last Wednesday, I believe, or Thursday, last Thursday, before we broke for the Independence Day break, I mentioned about the 250th Declaration of Independence lesson that they have. And yeah, by the way, I went ahead and purchased the instructor edition. So hopefully I'm going to be getting that here within about a week or two, and we'll see what's inside, and we'll be probably talking a little bit more about that. All right, so go and check out the Institute on the Constitution for me today. I thank them for allowing me to be a brand affiliate. All right. Ooh, I went through that one fast. Had to walk. Oh, there's Ms. T. She just popped in and said hi over on Facebook. So you missed G doing the pledge. Just saying. Hate it when you're late. No, I'm just kidding. You guys are just fantastic. I that's all I gotta say. I gotta give you a little bit of rips, but anyway. All right, I've already shown that I'm drinking Knob Creek, so let's get ahead to the first segment, of course, which is On This Day in American History. Yeah, I took a little quick sip in between there, as I was told to by, the venerable Bonnie. And for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb, chock full of all kinds of information and little factoids about our wonderful country that we call home. Tonight, of course, is July 5th. The things of the spirit come first. So, on July 5th, 1926, in a speech in Philadelphia commemorating the 150th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, President Calvin Coolidge reminded Americans that in its main features, the Declaration of Independence is a great spiritual document. Our forefathers came to certain conclusions and decided upon certain courses of action which have been a great blessing to the world. They were a people who came under the influence of great spiritual development and acquired a great moral power. No other theory is adequate to explain or comprehend the Declaration of Independence. It is the product of the spiritual insight of the people. We live in an age of science and of abounding accumulation of material things. These did not create our declaration. Our declaration created them. Things of the spirit come first. Unless we cling to that, all our material prosperity, overwhelming though it may appear, will turn to a barren scepter in our grasp. If we are to maintain the great heritage which has been bequeathed to us, we must be like-minded as the fathers who created it. We must not sink into a pagan materialism. We must cultivate the reverence which they had for the things that are holy. We must follow the spiritual and moral leadership which they showed. We must keep replenished, and that they may glow with a more compelling flame the altar of fires before which they worshipped. And that is on this day in American history. Coolidge was correct. This country was, and still is, founded in Judeo-Christian principles. We are, and always will be, a Judeo-Christian principle and valued country, provided that we, the people, keep that in our consciousness and within our hearts. And speaking of hearts, we're going to need to pray. If you aren't already, you really should be. Unfortunately, there is roughly 24 people still missing. Still missing from this catastrophic flood event that occurred in Texas, in the Hill Country in Texas. You know, I don't know if anybody, I mean, I'm sure Tommy could tell us, but I'm just going to go ahead and tell you because I just spent a little bit of time there. That was, the Hill Country is actually where I was at in Luckenbach and also at Green Hall for the TGRN launch of Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. And what a lot of people don't understand is that when you're dealing with places like Texas and New Mexico and Phoenix, where they don't get a lot of rain, and the ground itself is very hard and mostly, you know, clay or very hard, rocky kind of soil, it doesn't absorb water very well. And so when you have large rain events, what ends up happening is the water has literally no place to go. And it has to essentially start accumulating on the surface. And when it does that, that's when you get flooding. Now, unfortunately, in this particular case, while the left keeps talking about, you know, oh, yeah, these bastards. I'm just going to tell you, these are some sick. I'm sorry. I gotta let it out. These sick fucking people. I'm just going to say. These people are so sick that they can't just sit there and accept the fact that this is a, you know, once in a blue moon kind of event, and they got to go and turn it into some sort of a political strike against Donald Trump. These bastards on the social media, and yes, I am getting a little frustrated and heated right now, but these bastards on social media have all been like, well, if Trump hadn't have, you know, gotten rid of or gutted NOAA and the NWS, the National Weather Service, they wouldn't have had this issue. Fucking morons. And the reason why I'm a little pissed is because of the fact that, yes, NOAA and the National Weather Service actually did issue the proper warnings. They issued a warning 12 hours away of the potential of flash flooding. They issued another warning 3 hours away, and they issued another warning just shortly before the event. And regardless of what anybody wants to sit here and say, this freaking river, the Guadalupe River, where this camp was located, rose 29 feet, almost 30 freaking feet in less than 1 hour. That is basically about a half a foot, because it was 45 minutes. This is about a half to 3/4 of a foot per, basically per minute. This thing was unprecedented. It was unprecedented, and it was going on at night. There are estimates, by the way, that are saying that close to 2 trillion gallons of water were dumped on this area all at once. Now think about that. 2 trillion gallons. The water has no place to go. I'm telling you, I've driven ground rods in the ground in Texas. It is near to impossible to get anything into the ground. In fact, even it's amazing that plants are even able to grow in some of these areas because it is so rock hard. And this is in the Texas Hill Country where seriously, there is absolutely no place for this to go. Now, I was there close by, and by close by, I mean within a few miles of this particular scenario. And in Lukenbach, it wasn't that far away. And I'm telling you that this is an unprecedented event. There was no way for anybody to be able to get any of these children out. Okay? Tommy just pointed out that I'm correct in my assumption and in my interpretation of the Texas soil, because she says you cannot get a well dug for a reasonable price because they literally have to use dynamite, or TNT is what that's called. Folks, there is no place for this water to run to. And all it does is collect in low spots and arroyos and places that are just, yeah. There's been as of right now, we only know of at least 25 people that have been killed and swept away. Dozens of children at a local Christian camp. Now, this is the other problem, is that these sycophantic, so tolerant and so loving, and they love everybody. Yeah, they really do. They love everybody. They love everybody so much that they are sitting here and blaming Trump for the fact that the National Weather Service did exactly what it was supposed to do. Whether it was gutted or not, it really doesn't make any difference. They did the exact same thing. And they're sitting there trying to blame these deaths on Trump. And they're not. Now, state officials have confirmed that at least 25 people are dead, including adults and children. Among the deaths, 24 were reported in Kerr County, Kerr County, and one was in Kendall County. There's still 24 people that are remaining missing at Camp Mystic, roughly, which is an all-girls private Christian camp along the Guadalupe River, which is where the flooding occurred, according to officials. The camp itself had more than 750 attendees at the location. Helicopters and military vehicles were used for evacuation. So far, 237 people have been evacuated. This was as of Friday, including 167 by helicopter. Day or night, whatever the hour of the day, Texas Governor Greg Abbott said in his news conference on Friday night, there will be local officials and state officials collaborating together. Now, contrary to popular, I guess it's pronounced Kerr, contrary to popular belief, the Kristi Noem and Interior Secretary Doug Burgum had contacted the governor, Governor Abbott, and has offered federal assistance and resources. Abbott said the federal government is leaning in and wants to assist the community here in the heart of Texas. You know, Tommy just updated there's been over 500 that have been evacuated now. That's good. Here's a photo of two girls that, as of the time of this article, are still counted as missing. These are two young ladies who attended that youth camp, and they are still missing. Kerrville Mayor Joe Herring Jr. has issued a disaster declaration amid the emergency evacuations. I mean, just the same plain and simple fact that these leftist lunatic morons are turning this into some sort of a political situation when it is entirely a natural, albeit disastrous, event just shows you where their hearts actually are. They are sick, horrible people. And I don't even understand, you know, I tolerate them generally in a general fashion, but this is ridiculous. This is just as bad, in fact, even worse than them sitting there talking about how some sick ass munch decided to sit on top of a roof of a building and shoot at our president. And saying things like, oh no, he wasn't hit, when there is all kinds of evidence to the contrary. These people are sick. They're horrible. They are evil in the most prevalent way. They are absolutely disgusting human beings. And I am so, every time I see these people who sit here and talk about this in the negative light, they are sick and disgusting in my mind. And I will never appreciate them at all. Period. These are children that have been affected by this. This is not the time to sit here and moan and groan about some thing that, you know, obviously is not even remotely part of it. And they carry this over into all of their conversations and everything else. They carry this over into everything. They talk about today being akin to 1930s Germany. We're not even close. We're not even close to it. This is just utterly sick and twisted by these people. You should be praying for these kids, praying to make sure that these children are found safe, are found alive. That's what you should be praying for, and that's all you should be discussing right now. That's it. Anyway. All right. Calm down for a second. Blood pressure went up because of that. All right. Well, everywhere else across this country, we celebrated the 249th birthday of the greatest country to ever grace planet Earth, which is, of course, the United States of America. And even the White House had their celebrations. Okay. And, the left did their kind of thing, and, you know, they complained about it, which, again, you know, I just want to point this out. If you hate this country so damn bad, there is nothing stopping you. Take your finger, spin a globe, stop the globe, put your finger on some country, and get the hell out of here. I'm done with this. If you think that America is so bad, so evil, so horrible, that you cannot live here, and I'm telling you, all of these evil, sick morons that are running around talking about that weather event as though it is, you know, some sort of a big thing or whatever, go to another country. Leave. I only ask for one thing and one thing only. and that is drop your passport off at the door so you can never come back. If you honestly believe that America is so bad, so horrible, so evil, then get the hell out of here. We don't need you. We don't need your money. We don't need your taxes. We don't need any of that crap. Just get out. Just go. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you on your ass. And like I said, drop your passport on the way out. Because frankly, I'm getting tired of all this. I'm getting tired of you. All you do is just sit and complain and whine and complain when things don't go your way. And I'm sorry, whether you like it or not, there is this thing called the Constitution that has rules. There are laws that Congress has passed. And so this entire freaking situation with the whole, alligator, Alcatraz and all this other stuff, yeah, there's a reason why that crap is starting to exist. I'm done with this. Get the hell out. Just leave. Just get out. If you really believe that America is so damn bad, then go. We're not stopping you. In fact, somebody somewhere might even offer to help you out and take you to the freaking airport or wherever it is that you want to go. You want to jump on a raft and go float the ocean or whatever? Go for it. You want to go run across the border? Go for it. I guarantee you none of these other countries will put up with the same shit that you do here over there. And I guarantee you that you'll go over there and you'll be like, hey, this America was so horrible and so bad. And here I am. I'm ready. Yeah, you'll be coming back. You'll be wanting to come back. That's why I tell you, drop the freaking passport at the door. Drop the freaking passport at the door so your ass could never come back here. I'm tired of this. So freaking ridiculous. Anyway, we celebrated our independence. I got off track. I just went to... I'm still pissed. Anyway, I got off track. So they were celebrating at the White House, and Melania did something that she hasn't done, but hey, you know what? God love her. She did it anyway. Here she is. You can see the camera, the photo. She did the Trump dance. That's right. She did the Trump dance. And she joined in. Oh, for those of you who are lefties, who are out there thinking that Melania is like pissed off at Trump. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, at least not in this particular case. Yeah. His wife joined on the front stoop, wherever, and she started doing the Trump dance. Usually it comes out with YMCA. Oops, sorry, I screwed up my camera. Anyway, so this was something to celebrate, the fact that she jumped in with all of that. Yeah. Well, at the same time of doing the wonderful Trump dance and all of that other stuff, Trump decided to go ahead and sign the big, beautiful bill. Yes, the big, beautiful bill is now law. There were some suggestions that maybe he might have decided, no, he wasn't going to. Give me a break. But the media, of course, kept saying throughout the entire process that they were talking back and forth, saying throughout the entire process that the big, beautiful bill was dead. Big, beautiful bill is gone. It's history, especially when it went to the Senate. Oh, my gosh, it's done. And then when it got passed by the Senate, they were like, oh, still got to go back to the House and get passed. Yeah, it did. It got passed, and it got signed yesterday. So, obviously, there was a whole bunch of conversations surrounding what the big, beautiful bill is doing and, who gets what and where and why and so on and so forth. Now, the signing ceremony, according to News Nation, included things like stealth bombers and fighter jets flying over the White House. and so on and so forth. Trump obviously praised the military, acknowledged Air Force members and their families before praising the current state of America. And of course, the left, I saw so many posts yesterday on Independence Day. They were like, oh, we have nothing to, our independence, we're getting independence taken away from us. Independence of what? What did you, again, what are you getting taken? If you're a freaking leftist, a leftist lunatic moron, I just got to ask you, what independence have you had taken away from you? What independence? What right has been taken away from you? What independence is gone? Seriously. I'm just asking the question because apparently I am very stupid, obviously, because I don't see it. I don't see what independent thing, what freedom, what value, what right has been changed by all of this. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand. Anyway, so the legislation, by the way, has several key pieces in it. And the Epoch Times did a great piece on what this actually means for our wallet. So here, what Trump's big, beautiful bill means for your wallet. That's the title. I know I just said that. Anyway, spanning nearly 1,000 pages, the measure includes permanent tax changes and provisions affecting families, seniors, and businesses. Now, one of the things that the left has been saying consistently throughout this entire process is that Trump is cutting Medicaid, Trump is cutting SNAP benefits, all to give a tax cut to the wealthy. Yeah. I call bullshit. I'm sorry, I just do. I call complete bullshit, and here's why. Right here. What I got on the screen right now is a graphic by the House Committee on Ways and Means. This was posted by the chairman, Jason Smith, and he's correcting the record. Okay, he's correcting the record. Now, I want to point out to you that as a result of the Trump tax cuts, now this harkens all the way back to Trump's first term. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the TCJA is what it's called. This goes all the way back to that. And back then, the left was sitting there talking about, Trump is giving all his billionaire buddies tax cuts. Really? 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 Well, take a look at this thing right here. And give me just a second. I got to get it. I got to zoom it in here for you. But I got to make my window larger so you can see this. Take a look at this chart right here. Okay? The TCJA tax cuts by income group. And this was taken out of 2019. Okay? The 20,000 to 30,000 bracket received a 13.5% tax cut. Now, I don't know about you, but 20,000 to 30,000, that sounds pretty low income to me. The $30,000 to $40,000 income bracket received 11.5% of a tax cut. And the 40,000 to 50,000 tax group received a 10% tax cut. Now, you compare that to the 1 million plus. Guess what? They only received a 5.9% tax cut. And by the way, as a result of those tax cuts, according to this report, the top 1% paid actually more in income taxes than they have before. Yes, they paid up to, actually over, so the top 1% paid over 45% of the entire federal tax bill, people. This is even bigger than back when the tax rate on billionaires and millionaires, which there really wasn't a billionaire back then, but the tax rate on millionaires was like 90%. You know, the left keeps pointing that out and they keep saying, oh, yeah, 90%, that was 90% taxes. No, it wasn't. Because there were so many freaking loopholes and deductions that were in there. The average tax rate for the millionaire was roughly, I think, today's numbers, maybe a little bit less. They never paid that 90%. And by the way, thanks to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the top 10% of earners are now paying 3/4. That means 75% of all the federal income tax burden. So don't sit here and tell me that the billionaires and the millionaires are not paying their fair share. They're paying more than their fair share because they are taking on the entire load of the tax bill. That's right, people. But you know what? I'm getting a little tired of all you lefties out there who don't understand statistics, who don't understand math, who don't understand the IRS is putting this stuff together and putting all of this stuff out. The people who collect the freaking taxes are the ones that are creating these numbers and demonstrating that, hey, all of this is what's going on here. But hey, you know what? You stupid ass morons, you can just sit there and try and blame the billionaires and millionaires, which, by the way, a very good question was asked. A very poignant question was asked by a representative on the Chris Cuomo show. And he basically was like, hey, if you didn't want to give the millionaires and billionaires tax cuts, then why didn't you propose a tax change in the law when you held all three houses, meaning the Biden in the White House and the Senate and the House of Representatives? Why didn't you propose a tax change then? Well, the simple answer to all of that, by the way, the simple answer to all of that is the fact that they are the party of the millionaires and billionaires. And the millionaires and billionaires that would never have stood for it. So don't sit here and let these Democrats try and warp you into a sense of, oh, I know all of these wonderful things, you know, that, yeah, we got to tax the billionaires to gain more money. Yeah, they're never going to do it. They're lying through their freaking teeth. They would never bite the hand, the only hand that is feeding them. I've told you about all of the evidence that is coming out about Act Blue taking a billionaire's donation and separating it into multiples of stolen identities in order to try and mask where the money is coming from. I've told you about the accusations that these people are doing things that are nefarious in order to cover up the fact that these billionaires are the ones that are funding everything. And by the way, coming back and swinging back around to the Trump tax cuts, the bottom 50% of earners paid less income taxes than they ever have before. Now here's another chart. Let me go ahead and I got to find my cursor. Here we go. Here's another chart right here at the bottom. So here is the share of total taxes that are being paid by the individuals. Yeah, those tax cuts. Here, I'm going to get out of the way because I'm actually covering up one part of the equation here. So you're going to have to listen to my voice while I'm not on camera. But take a look at this. This chart is showing that the top 1% after the Trump tax cuts, which have now been codified into law, by the way, moved from paying 38.5%, the top 1%, moved from paying 38.5% of the total tax bill over to paying 45.8% of the total federal tax bill. Then the top 10%, which were paying 70.1% of the tax bill, that includes the 38.5 from before, are now paying 75.8%, which includes the 45.8% from before. You want to know who the bottom 50%? The bottom one half of all taxpayers. Do you want to know what they're paying? They paid in 2017, they paid a 3.1% total of the entire tax bill. They paid less than 5% of the entire tax bill. The bottom 50% in this country paid for that. Now they pay less than 3%. They pay less than 2.5%. They pay 2.3%. So the bottom 50% of taxpayers in this country pay less than 2.5% of the entire tax bill. And you want to sit here and tell me that, oh yeah, we need more taxes. The rich aren't taxed enough. They're not taxed enough. We need to take more of their money. No, we don't. What we need to do is we need to stop freaking spending the money willy-nilly. We need to stop spending. That's our problem. I am so tired of all of the BS that is going on with regards to this. Anyway, all right. Let me continue with what the other stuff that's in this article talks about. We just went through all the tax cuts. Well, here's another thing. This is a new novel feature. There's a creation called the Trump account for children who were born between 2025 and 2028. Okay? Under this provision, the federal government will make a one-time $1,000 deposit for every eligible child who is a U.S. citizen. Parents can contribute up to $5,000 annually, with investments growing in a tax-deferred fund that tracks a U.S. stock index. Employers can also chip in up to $2,500, contributions that won't count as taxable income for the employees. Yeah. I mean, he's put in the big beautiful bill away for new parents to take care of themselves. Oh, but wait a minute, there's more. Families raising kids under 17 years old will see expanded tax relief under the bill. The child tax credit is going to increase from $2,000 to $2,200 per child starting in 2025 and will be indexed for inflation going forward. Up to $1,700 of that amount will be refundable, providing cash back even for families who owe little to no income tax. So you know that bottom 50%? Yeah, they could be getting a $1,700 tax credit for that. Now that builds on Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which had doubled the credit from $1,000 to $2,000, but those were scheduled to expire in 2025, or after 2025, I should say, without congressional action. With this, that higher credit now becomes permanent. Yeah. So, hey, for service workers, guess what? Workers in industries where tips make up a significant part of the income will benefit from the new tax breaks as well. Things like allowing individuals to deduct up to $25,000 of tip income annually from federal taxes between 2025 and 2028. Now, here's one argument that the left is consistently doing, and especially those sycophantic morons on all of the social medias. They're sitting there and they're saying, all of this stuff ends in 2028. Well, no kidding, it ends in 2028. You want to know why? Because this is a reconciliation of a budget. That's why. In 2028, Trump could effectively put all of this into the budget bill and have Congress vote on it again, and it becomes even longer period in all of this. Now, also, for those who are working overtime, they'll benefit from a temporary tax deduction for overtime pay. Single filers can deduct up to $12,500 in overtime income, while joint filers can deduct up to $25,000. The deduction phases out for higher earners and expires after 2028. So, you know what this benefit actually means? This means that the people who are at the lower end of the tax bracket are gaining all the freaking benefits. And by the way, that 5.9% cut, nothing changed. All it did was codify it into law. That's it. There was nothing added. There's nothing added. There's even some more stuff. The SALT deductions got raised to $40,000 starting in 2025. It's going from $10,000 to $40,000. So all of these liberal leftist lunatic morons in all of these high tax locations, such as New York, New Jersey, California, they will all be able to write off that additional state and local taxes. And by the way, after 2025, that will raise by 1% annually all the way through 2029 before going back to 10,000 in 2030. Yeah. And again, the expanded deduction begins phasing out for any taxpayer higher than $500,000. So where is this benefit that the rich are getting off of all of this? That this big, beautiful bill is just handing money over to the billionaires. Where is this coming from? These people, anybody that makes over $500,000 can't even take a benefit of writing off your state and local taxes. I'm struggling to see leftist lunatic morons. I'm struggling to see where all these benefits for the billionaire class that Trump supposedly put in this bill, where is this stuff coming from? Because I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it at all. Now, for seniors. So instead of fully eliminating taxes on Social Security benefits, the bill provides a $6,000 annual deduction for Social Security income. Now, this deduction, here again, hello, morons. The deduction phases out for individuals who are earning over $75,000 and for couples earning over $150,000 and is unavailable for anyone who is a single filer who is earning $175,000 or more, or joint filers above $250,000. Where the hell is the benefit for all of these billionaires? You jackass morons. You obviously have no reading comprehension skills whatsoever. Now, the Social Security Administration, by the way, estimates that nearly 90% of beneficiaries will see no federal taxes on their benefits under this change, describing the one big, beautiful bill as providing meaningful and immediate relief to seniors who have spent a lifetime contributing to our nation's economy. The expanded tax breaks under the bill will reduce the overall tax burden on Social Security recipients by roughly $30 billion each year, according to an estimate by the Tax Foundation, which noted that this could accelerate the projected insolvency dates for Social Security and Medicare trust funds by about a year. So because they're not getting taxed on money that they shouldn't be taxed on in the first place, because that was supposed to be set aside originally when FDR created the damn thing. It was supposed to be set aside in a privately held fund, never to be touched again. And yet now they're saying that, oh, yeah, this is going to increase insolvency because we're no longer collecting taxes off of people who are drawing from it. How stupid can you be, leftists? How dumb can you be? You are so, I swear, you people are so damn dumb. Your reading comprehension skills, your math skills, just about any skill that you have. Well, let me just boil it down for you. You don't have any damn skills. Now, let's move on to the next hot topic. Now, there are student borrowers, by the way, in this entire thing that are going to gain something and lose something. So the Pell Grants will expand to cover short-term workforce-focused programs. In other words, trade schools. Broadening access for students pursuing non-traditional educational paths. Okay? Now, they also impose some new borrowing caps. So graduate students will be restricted to only borrowing $20,500 per year and a lifetime maximum of $100,000 for unsubsidized loans, while professional degrees such as law and medicine will face caps of $50,000 annually and $200,000 over the lifetime. So in other words, all of these people that are running off to college, yeah, they're not going to be able to pay for the college through the Pell Grants and things like that. Now, parents who are borrowing through Parent Plus loans will be limited to $20,000 per year per child, with a lifetime ceiling of $65,000. Meanwhile, Grad Plus loans, which once allowed graduate students to borrow up to the full cost of attendance, are going to be eliminated altogether. New borrowers will also have only two repayment options starting in mid-2026, either a standard fixed payment plan or an income-driven repayment plan. The bill also eliminates deferments for unemployment or economic hardship, narrowing options for struggling borrowers to pause payments. Either the parents pay or you get other kinds of loans, or, God forbid, you actually work through college. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This doesn't necessarily affect the adults, the parents, as much as it will affect the institutions. Now, hear me out on this. Rather than heading off to Harvard and spending $60,000 a year to go get some sort of a gender studies, basket weaving, Aztec art degree, parents and students are going to start looking at the fact that, oh, hey, you know what? I better start studying something that, one, is going to give me the money back, but two, actually provides me a return on investment. This is going to impact those institutions. And the institutions are going to have to start learning the fact that, hey, you know what? We better provide a quality education and a quality degree that is actually worth something at the end of this, rather than some freaking stupid ass Central American graphical studies or whatever. Yeah. This is going to affect them a lot more. And people are going to start paying attention to what it is that their children are actually doing at school. For an example, I myself jumped into college immediately after high school. And when I jumped into college, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian, so I took some veterinarian courses. But what it turned out is that I was so damn stupid and, full of myself that the minute I got out from underneath my parents' thumb, I went wild, not paying attention to my classes. And my parents gave me a hard reality check at the end of the year when my school grades came back and I was barely making D's. They basically told me, we're not paying for you to go to school and basically F off the entire time. And they literally told me, we're not paying for that. If you're going to do that, you might as well go to community college. And so I went to community college for a little while. And as soon as I got done with community college, it turned out that I really wasn't interested in going to college at all. So, my parents decided to tell me I had two choices. My choices were, and this is the hard knock life choice that you have. Choice number one, get out of their house and go find a job. Like a real job. Go work in the oil fields. Go work, somewhere. Just get the hell out of their house because they weren't going to be paying much. And choice number two, Bonnie guessed it, go into the military. I signed up for the service. I went in the Army. And I got to tell you, going into the Army was probably, at least as far as that is concerned, one of the best decisions that was ever foisted upon me. Those were my choices. And I went. And I did fairly well, I should say. Anyway, moving on. All right, the next item on the list is Medicaid recipients. So they were they talk about, and this is another leftist hot point. All right. This is another leftist hot point. And they talk about this, about the money, the millions of people. I think the numbers have changed from like 13 million to 17 million, somewhere around in there. And what they don't tell you is the reason why these people are getting kicked off is not because of the fact that they should actually be on the program, but they're being kicked off because of the fact that the Medicaid had some very loosey-goosey requirements in terms of getting it. And so they're actually tightening them up. So here, the legislation imposes significant changes to Medicaid with about $1 trillion in cuts projected over the next decade. In part due to the fact that some 10 million people are going to lose coverage. Well, they're going to lose coverage because these 10 million people, the largest portion of which is able-bodied adults who, are not going to be able to keep up with, working like 20 hours a week or something like that. Seriously? Seriously. Now, tighter limits on how states can actually fund their programs through provider taxes. So they're basically tightening up on where the money is going to come from. And then also some more stricter rules for state-directed Medicaid payments. All of this is according to an analysis by the Kaiser Family Foundation. Now, the bill itself also allocates $50 billion to support rural hospitals that may very well be affected by the cuts. The other hot button for the leftist morons is the people on food stamps. Food assistance under the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is also facing changes here. States will be required to contribute between 5 and 15% of the SNAP benefit costs, depending upon their payment error rates, and must now cover 75% of the administrative costs. So in other words, something that was unconstitutionally placed on the federal government is now being, by law, pushed down to the states where it should have been in the first damn place. Never should have been a federal government responsibility. So, yeah. And there's also some work requirements that are going to be expanded to include adults age 55 to 64. and parents with children who are aged 14 and older. According to the Urban Institute, around 5.3 million households could see their benefits drop by at least $25 per month, which is what the leftists are screaming about. Anyway, by the way, small business owners, are you a small business owner? Yeah, they're sitting there talking about, the left keeps talking about how, oh yeah, small businesses are going to get hurt the worst. Really? Small business owners, contractors, and gig economy workers will benefit from the permanent extension of what's called the Section 199A pass-through business deduction. These were originally enacted under the TCJA, and they provide certain business owners to deduct up to 20% of their qualified business income. The deduction, which was previously set to expire after 2025, is now permanent. Yeah. Taken together, all of these together, the One Big Beautiful Bill actually promises tax relief for the not wealthy, is the best way to put it, and new financial perks for all kinds of Americans, from young families to seniors. All of this tightening the budget and tightening the belt on federal spending from programs that never should have been a part of the federal government's responsibility in the first damn place. All the leftists do is lie, 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 lie. That's all they can do. In fact, I also saw a meme. This guy had posted this meme, and it went back to the whole Russian collusion hoax. They're resurfacing a lot of these lies about Trump being in the pocket of Russia. They're resurfacing the lies, all of the lies that they put in under Trump in the beginning. And it's like, yeah, you guys are horrible. Anyway, all right, let me head on over here and take a look. Let's see if I have any campaigns. Ah, here we go. Let's see which one is going to give me the most. Okay, we'll go with this one. All right, folks. I'm going to take a quick break here. I love coffee. I start my day with 16 ounces of coffee every day. You can ask my wife, Mrs. Whiskey. She knows. I usually don't start moving. Don't start moving without my first cup of coffee, which is technically 2 cups, because again, that cup that I use is 16. Yeah. So, all I got to tell you is that if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit has dropped. There's a small number of units available. You're getting inside this kit, okay? Inside this kit, you'll be getting the Bold Dark Roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check, a smooth medium roast blend, as well as the Vitality Mushroom Coffee. Now, that one in particular gives you clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All of these coffees are single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also getting, and this is my personal favorite, a gold spoon clip. The reason is because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. You get a frother that's strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions. You know, it might even be strong enough to stir up your mother's political opinions, too. I'm going to have to try that on my mom, see if our frother will do that. Anyway, you'll also receive a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. You get $170 worth of coffee and gear, all yours for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering whether or not it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com. That's 1775coffee.com / that's the question mark key, / studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they are gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they are gone. All right. Well, one thing that the leftists, lunatic moron Democrats have been complaining, they've been complaining about this big, beautiful bill is that, you know, the Medicaid and the SNAP benefits, all of those benefits, those are Americans that are losing those. Americans are losing them, despite the fact that it's been shown that the cuts, the benefit cuts that are in here are predominantly going to be for illegal aliens, not actual Americans. And their argument back has basically been, well, yeah, but that's not happening. Illegal aliens cannot legally get onto the program. Sure, they can't. Now, let me ask you this then. Why is it that we have a leftist state who is, and by the way, it's a conglomerate of leftist states that are suing the Department of Health and Human Services in order to keep their illegal immigrants on Medicaid? Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Here in the Midwesterner, Dana, I don't know which it is, Nessel, is suing President Donald Trump to keep illegal immigrants on Medicaid. Read that, illegal aliens, please. That is illegal aliens. So, yeah. Michigan Attorney General Dana, whatever, Nessel, wants to protect illegal immigrants using illegal aliens using taxpayer-funded Medicaid. So she's suing President Donald Trump for exposing them for it. So Nessel said on Tuesday that she has joined a coalition of blue states in a lawsuit challenging the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services' decision to provide Medicaid data, in particular to the Department of Homeland Security, tasked with immigration enforcement. Now, wait a minute. Hold up. Let's think about this for a second. So she is trying to stop the Department of Health and Human Services from sharing Medicaid data to the Department of Homeland Security, specifically because of the fact that she likely knows that there are illegal aliens on that list. She's suing to have that stopped. Because let's face it, if there were no illegal aliens on that list that she apparently is so adamant about keeping private, then there wouldn't be a problem with this necessarily. Now, she's doing this, by the way, under the guise of like, well, I want to protect people's health information. Yeah, I don't think that's what immigration enforcement is going to be after. I don't think they care about the person's health necessarily. All they're going to care about is, are they here? Do they have, what their name is, what their social security number is, and probably correlate that information to their information to figure out whether or not that individual is an illegal alien. Yeah. It's not just here, though. Information was sent in June from DHHS on non-citizens enrolled in Medicaid in California, Illinois, Washington State, and Washington, D.C. And the purpose of this was, of course, to ensure that Medicaid benefits are reserved for individuals who are lawfully entitled to receive them. That's what the department spokesman, Andrew Nixon, told the Associated Press when it happened. Nixon said that the data transfer was in full compliance with all applicable laws. In other words, things like HIPAA laws and those kinds of things were very well taken care of. Now, you noticed California, Illinois, Washington State, and Washington, D.C. were all part of it. What's common across all of those? Oh, they're run by leftist lunatic Democrats. That's right. Speaking about that, this, once again, this is in red state and kind of corresponds to what I just read to you out of the Midwesterner. Democrats trying to block the info about something that they swear isn't happening. Yeah, it's not happening, but it's good that it is. Yeah. Yep. Now, what's interesting about this article is the fact that Libs of TikTok reported that the 20 Democrat-led states that were suing the DHS in order to make them stop looking into whether Medicaid dollars have been spent on illegals. Yet, if you were to ask AOC, it never happens. According to AOC, on X, not one federal dollar currently goes to giving undocumented people Medicaid. And you know that. What does need to be said is that Republicans are set to kick 17 million Americans, see, this is the argument that they use, 17 million Americans off their health insurance. Even GOP senators admitted this, and Floridians are going to suffer. Okay, except there's only one problem. NPR outed them. That's right. NPR admits that illegal immigrants have access to Medicaid. In their covering the story, they pointed out that the jurisdictions allow some low-income immigrants, including some without legal status, who do not qualify for Medicaid to access the state-funded health programs. Wait. You think I'm lying? Here, it's right here in this statement. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. It's right there. So this comes from the top health and human services officials directed the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services to share data with the DHS from California, Illinois, Washington, and Washington, D.C. about millions of their Medicaid recipients, according to the AP's report. And then they say, again, those jurisdictions allow some low-income immigrants, including some without legal status. Oh, wait a minute. What is an immigrant? What is an immigrant who does not have legal status to be here in the United States called? Somebody, please, somebody tell me. Somebody tell me. Just somewhere. Oh, wait, that's right. An illegal alien by law. But wait a minute. I thought that illegals weren't allowed to get these benefits. I thought they weren't a part of this, AOC. As Mark Levin calls her, AOC. Yeah. These people, they are lying to you. These leftist lunatic morons are lying to you. Lying. By the way, Representative Anna Paulina Luna called out AOC on this. She said, your claim that not one federal dollar goes to undocumented immigrants, read illegal aliens, overlooks emergency Medicaid, which uses federal funds for acute care, hundreds of millions annually. States like California also use state funds, often tied to federal block grants for non-emergency care. Oh, yeah. I thought it wasn't happening. Yeah, but it's good that it is, right? It's not happening, but it's good that it is. By the way, Senator Eric Schmidt also pointed out the issue, and also pointed out that the big beautiful bill is going to remove 1.4 million illegal aliens off of Medicaid. Here is a CBO, Congressional Budget Office report that was posted by none other than, here, I got to back off and go in again. Posted none other than Eric Schmidt, who points out right here in the CBO report. CBO estimates that enacting the Medicaid provisions in Title IV would increase the number of people without health insurance by 7.8 million in 2034, relative to baseline projections under current law. Of that number, about 4.8 million would be able-bodied adults between the ages of 19 and 64 who have no dependents and who do not meet the community engagement requirement for participating in work-related activities for at least 80 hours a month. You're basically asking somebody to work or volunteer for roughly 2 weeks, 2 work weeks out of the month in order to gain these benefits. By the way, that actually is even less than what Bill Clinton required during his term in office. Now, this red highlighted area that you see on the screen is about 1.4 million would-be people who do not meet citizenship and immigration status requirements for Medicaid enrollment, but who would be covered under current law in programs funded by the states. So in other words, the states have been enrolling these people because they're the ones that are funding those. And for some damn reason, all of a sudden, those same people who are being funded by the states are taking federal tax dollars. And this is from the Congressional Budget Office. It's not happening, but it's good that it is. It's just not happening. AOC. God. Such a freak. We're being led, in terms of the Democrats, we're being led by complete, utter morons. Complete, utter morons. Okay, as things are winding down, I'm going to probably move a little bit quicker through these last stories. All right, well, you remember that whole fight that they were having over NPR and PBS losing their federal tax dollars? I mean, let's just gloss over the whole thing, that it's unconstitutional. It's not a part of the federal government's responsibility to fund these media outlets. But hey, I apparently have really bad reading comprehension skills, I guess. Not. Anyway. PBS decided to prove why they should be defunded yesterday. Here we are. We're paying money to PBS and NPR. They are supposed to be bipartisan, or I should say non-partisan. But here we are, and PBS apparently exploits Independence Day to go ahead and trash the deportation of illegal aliens, which by law has to occur. It just hasn't been enforced. So here, host John Yang kicked off the festivities by referencing a recent PBS News NPR Marist College poll, saying, with 4th of July upon us, it is a fitting moment to reflect on our nation and its democracy. The poll asked Americans about their attitudes toward welcoming people from around the globe. 64% believe it is essential to our national identity, while 35% feel it poses a risk to that identity. How does this square with what President Trump is doing on immigration and mass deportations? Really? Really? Yeah. So, yeah, we're funding this. The American public has been funding this. I mean, really? Seriously. Seriously. Well, guess what? Americans are happy about mass deportations. Let's listen to our buddy Harry Enton over on CNN, who talks about that particular subject.
Documented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deported all immigrants who are here illegally, 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters.
So, oh, so I guess, that whole idea of migrants coming here. Yes, we are a nation of migrants. And in fact, most people, when you talk to them, they say the same thing. If you want to migrate to this country, you want to migrate here legally, okay, you're fine. But if you come here illegally, that's the problem. And even the leftist New York Times, Marquette, CBS News, and ABC News found out that the majority of Americans, they want to deport all illegal aliens. They want to deport them. Folks, I've told you, this is an 80-20 proposition. This is something that these leftists can't quite figure it out. And they keep throwing their damn money behind people who are trying to defend these people. And I'm sorry, but the minute that you cross the line and break the law, you are considered a criminal. You're crossing here undocumented is against the law. That's it. That's it. And Americans, for the most part, don't care for lawbreakers. You want to come here legally? Wait in line, do your turn, do your job, get your stuff in, and come here totally legally. And if you can't, then you don't need to be here. Because obviously, if you can't come here, there's a specific reason why. And we probably don't want you here. And yet these leftists are like, oh, this is a winning order for us. Yeah. No. They're going back. They don't need to be here. We don't need to be importing people who don't belong here. And yes, I do agree that we should be vetting every single one and making sure that anybody with any kind of ties to any sort of disruptive terrorist organization or any type of sympathetic terrorist organization, none of them should be allowed in here. We have no interest in it at all. At all. The American people, according to this piece in Town Hall where that came from, the American people have spoken and they want more ICE raids. They want the wall. They want the border to be secure. Well, the reason why they're here is because the leftists, of course, love them because they tend to swing elections. Because again, remember, even if they don't think that it's happening, or even if they tell you, oh, no, it's not happening, but it's good that it is. That's what they've got going on. All right. Let's see. Can I get rid of this? Yes, I can. All right. So I have a fantastic question of the week tonight that was submitted by none other than 3 Chevy. So let's go ahead and get into that right now. All right, so tonight's question of the week comes from 3 Chevy, and he writes to me, "Good evening, Rick." He wrote to me a couple of days ago. Anyway, he says, "Good evening, Rick. This question concerns the iPhone app that locates the ICE agents." You'll remember that conversation that we had, the report about the ICE block app that was out there, which, by the way, that was being taken over by by people. Anyway, there was some question in regards to this. This isn't what 3 Chevy said, but I'm just trying to catch everybody up. So there was some question as to whether or not, because CNN publicized it, there was some question as to whether or not CNN had actually violated the law. You keep in mind, this was Title 18, Section 111, which requires and specifically prohibits people from being able to impede or interfere with any of these, okay? But he references this in his question back to 3 Chevy. If CNN is found guilty of committing a crime over this, how does the law view a corporate entity versus an individual? If the corporation is considered a legal entity, how does that apply to the broadcasters that were behind the camera when the announcement was made? And 3 Chevy ends it with, "Thanks again for all the work you put into the show." 3 Chevy. Well, thank you, 3 Chevy. I do appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you recognize the effort that comes along with this show. Anyway, let's get to your question. So question number 1 is, how does the law view a corporate entity versus an individual? So technically, there is nothing in the Constitution that actually mentions corporations having the same kinds of protections as individuals. Now, keep in mind, corporations and legal entities like that and stuff were fairly scarce for the most part back when the Constitution was written. However, that being said, okay, going all the way back to Roman law in particular, they created the concept and established the concept of a corporation, which included municipalities, trade groups, other entities that conducted business through representatives. Now, that led us into the courts. And our court system, even though our Constitution doesn't specifically recognize or doesn't specifically state anything about corporations, the court system has continually recognized the fact that corporations are technically a legal entity in and of themselves. Now, that being said, that does mean that, yes, a corporation can be charged criminally. It also means that corporations do have some protections under the Constitution. And in fact, the courts have generally kept up with some of that. In fact, by the early 19th century, the courts had determined that they are entitled to certain constitutional protections. For an example, Dartmouth College versus Woodward in 1819. The court held that the Contracts Clause prohibited by the state of New Hampshire from forcing Dartmouth to become a public institution. A little bit later, in the Pembrina Consolidated Silver Mining Company versus Pennsylvania of 1888, the court found that corporations are protected by the 14th Amendment, although later rulings did also clarify that this does not insulate them from state regulation. Now, one thing that the court has consistently held is that the Fifth Amendment, which is the right against self-incrimination, does not apply to corporations. So there are parts and pieces of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights that are applied to corporations and others are not. And one of the things that has been applied to corporations, especially recently, has to deal with the free speech rights. That free speech does extend to corporations. That was found in 1978 in the court case, the First National Bank of Boston versus Bellotti. And that was holding that a Massachusetts law prohibiting most corporate contributions from ballot or to ballot initiatives was actually unconstitutional. So, yeah. However, that also has gone back and forth because in the Michigan Chamber of Commerce versus Austin in 1990, the court upheld that the Michigan Campaign Finance Act, which prohibited corporations from making independent expenditures to support and oppose candidates, and the court upheld that. So it's kind of been a back and forth in the court system. However, that being said, the law does recognize corporations as a separate person. And there actually is a criminal memorandum that was filed by the Deputy Attorney General back in 1999 that talks about bringing criminal charges against corporations. And one of the things that they do mention is that charging a corporation does not mean that the individual directors, officers, employees, or shareholders should also not be charged. Okay? So prosecution of a corporation is not a substitute for prosecution of criminally culpable individuals within or without the corporation. So the point here is that while corporations are legal persons, being capable of suing and being sued, okay, and they are capable of committing crimes, but it's really the agents of the corporation that perpetrate these crimes on behalf of the corporation. And so that's the key. If the Department of Justice or any legal entity is going to charge a corporation with a crime, they may or may not necessarily charge the individuals involved. However, it typically is that the corporation itself will be charged and the people involved will be charged separately as well. And especially if they can prove that the individuals were doing this illegal action for the benefit of the company, is when things get into the point of where a corporation can be charged. Now, a corporation, on the other hand, isn't necessarily going to serve jail time. However, what will end up happening is they will probably get heavy fines, and they will also more than likely become monitored by the federal government to ensure no other criminal activity occurs for a certain period of time. So it's sort of feels like jail, but not really. So anyway, the point being is that yes, corporations can get charged. And the individuals involved within the entire corporation acting as agents for the corporation can also be charged criminally for doing something illegal. So that's why, or that is basically where the idea of the people who were behind the camera, the director, the producer, the person who read it, if they all are considered part of agents and they did that specifically for the benefit of the corporation itself, and it can be proven as such, they can also be charged both individually as well as bringing the corporation into the criminal charges as well. Hopefully that answers your question. That was a good one. I thoroughly enjoyed researching it to get the answer for you. But there you go. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up, or if you really want to, you can give me a thumbs down. Across all of my platforms, whether it is X, YouTube, Facebook, and of course the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of the Independence Day weekend. We will see you all Monday. Good night, everybody.